So, what did we learn from Georgia's first scrimmage on Saturday in Athens? I'll tell you a few details. Dean Legge from Dog Post, thanks for joining me, making you a smarter Georgia fan. Make sure you check out the website, dogpost.com. And if nothing else, it's becoming more and more clear that JT Daniels is someone that Georgia's going to really lean on this fall. That's something Kirby Smart talked about a lot on Saturday when he met with reporters. And JT Daniels is becoming more comfortable with the situation of being the starter at Georgia, as well as just working with Todd Monken, etc. Um, he's going to be if I mean it's not like we don't already know this, but the scrimmage from Saturday kind of cements it that you know JT is going to be a very important part of Georgia's 2021 season. And I think that the important part to remember there is that this time a year ago, we didn't have. I mean, JT Daniels wasn't even on Georgia's roster. But this is what Kirby had to say about JT along the way. He said, JT's always been about his business. That's JT. JT's very serious, very intuitive. He has grown, he has growth he can go through. For him, continuity is important, and we haven't had great continuity with our back out, with this back out and this receiver out. So we ping pong guys around. That's always tough. I think he's asserted himself more in terms of the command of the offense. There are a lot of things that help you feel comfortable in terms of being able to make calls as an offensive coordinator, and he understands those things and does a good job. So, if you didn't already know how important JT Daniels is and will be going into the fall, Kirby sort of cemented that after Georgia's first scrimmage. Now, there's going to be a scrimmage this weekend as well. I'm looking for the calendar. Don't immediately see it. And then there will be G Day. So this is pretty common, the three scrimmages with the one culminating at G Day. The other thing that I kind of picked up on was how important Nakobi Dean is for Georgia's defense. And he's out there, I mean, he's hurt right now, but he's out there going through walkthroughs during his reps. And Kirby had this to say about Nakobi. I've never had a player in all my coaching career who is more engaged. So that's really saying something. I mean, the thing about Nakobi Dean is that he always has had a reputation of being very intelligent, very smart, and so it's not surprising that that you'd say that he's engaged, but to say he's the most engaged you've ever coached in your entire career, I mean, that's pretty important at the end of the day. And then really the biggest thing, I think maybe bigger than, I don't know if it's bigger than the JT thing or not. Y'all can comment below and tell me, which is, I don't know about, I don't want to make it too dramatic, but the concern, I guess you could say, at DB, specifically at DB, because I think if you look at Georgia over here, when I'm looking this way, I'm looking at the depth chart, etc., the board. They're in good shape, I think, at safety. The question is who's going to be specifically playing defensive back. And I watched Clemson's spring game yesterday. I watched a lot of it, and there was a lot of throwing. There wasn't a lot of running, which I was curious about. And this is what Kirby had to say about the DBs. He said, we've got to challenge them in terms of the coverage situations we put them in. For a lot of them, it was their first real live action with Lavassier Carroll out there playing some corner and Nyland Green and Keely Ringo. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of young guys that haven't played a lot of college football. They've played a lot of football, and they're good football players, but we're a long way from being ready in terms of what we need to do with the secondary because we've just got a lot of inexperienced players. We cannot have enough of those situations, scrimmages, passing, all of the different looks we get because we need experience. And look, they had a lot of experience these last 2 years at corner. And even in 18, when you were returning DeAndre Baker on one side, you still had Stokes and Campbell that were coming along, but they were freshmen that year. So I mean, it's clear to me that experience at DB is something that Kirby's extremely concerned about. Is he overdoing it? Time will tell, because I think the problem right now in college football is that if you have defensive backs, they better be good because everybody's throwing the ball, and you can't know how good these guys are going to be because they've never played. And everybody's not Tim Jennings. You just roll them off the bus as freshmen and they're really good. They're not 8-year NFL guys like Tim or whatever he was. So I'd be concerned too. And I asked about the offensive line. He said my interpretation of that was he said it was fine. So not great, not horrible. And maybe it's that we ask about the DBs. Maybe it's that we're not asking about something else. I don't know. But when you look at this team and you look across the board and you say you're going to probably need to win 15 games to win the national championship, you're going to need to be good at DB in some of those games. Against Vanderbilt and probably South Carolina, Tennessee, teams like that. And maybe Arkansas, who could be their own challenge. Maybe you don't have to be spectacular at defensive back. But Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, maybe LSU, you're going to have to be able, and Florida perhaps. I mean, we'll see what happens with Emory Jones. They're going to have to throw the ball better, Florida with Emory, than they have been throwing with Emory. But the DBs matter so much now in college football because that's the new, Oklahoma drill. That's the new place that you got to fight it out and make tackles, it seems, is on the perimeter where the DBs play, where the corners play specifically. And you've got Lewis Seen, you've got Christopher Smith, you've got guys who can play safety. The issue is DB. And the other thing is, too, listen, there's a lot of different ways to win football games. You can outscore people, you can out special teams them, you can try to out defend them. But you're going to need a combination of all of those if you're going to win it all. If you're going to get to Atlanta, play for the SEC championship, go to the playoff, wherever in the world that is this year, you're going to need to do all those things. It's got to all come together. We're cooking a meal here. We're not just throwing steak on the ground. So this is an important time for Georgia to try to get all of these things I just mentioned. They're important. I mean, Nakobi is critical. He can't. I mean, him missing a game or two, you notice that. It's clear. And but the DBs, JT Daniels, Nakobi, no one player is going to get this done for Georgia. It's going to be the entire team. One other thing I did not mention was that it doesn't sound like they kicked very well yesterday in place kicking situations. You're definitely going to need those guys. And you're going to need snapper, holder, kicker. And that didn't sound like that was so hot yesterday. So, again, it's a spring practice, spring scrimmage, and there's a lot going on all the time in spring. But these are things you want to clean up if you're Georgia. What you're going to want to do is go over to dogpost.com where we talk about all this and more, insider tidbits, etc. I can't wrap everything up on here. You need to go to the site, dogpost.com. You see it right there over my shoulder, dogpost.com. We'll see you over on the website.